Have you ever looked at a truck and wondered if its designers completely ignored common sense? Some of the machines on today's list look like failed experiments. Others seem as though they were built by engineers who refused to accept the limits of physics. Strange proportions, unbelievable engineering, and designs so bizarre they almost look fake. Yet, every one of them was real. They rolled off factory assembly lines, hauled cargo across continents, served in wars, rebuilt nations, and in some cases are still working decades later. These weren't concept vehicles or one-off prototypes. They were serious machines built to solve serious problems, just in the strangest ways imaginable. Today, we're counting down 10 classic trucks that proved the impossible could actually work. From Germany's most versatile off-roader to Japanese trucks that became rolling works of art, these mechanical oddities rewrote the rules of commercial vehicle design. By the end of this video, you'll probably be asking yourself the same question every engineer heard when these trucks first appeared. Who on earth approved this? Number 10. Mercedes-Benz. Unimog most trucks are designed with a single purpose. Some are built for farming, others are made for construction, military service, or heavy hauling. The Mercedes-Benz Unimog refused to choose. It wanted to do everything, and somehow, it actually did. When the first Unimog appeared in post-war Germany during the late 1940s, Europe was rebuilding from devastation. Farms needed machinery, roads were damaged, fuel was limited. Buying separate vehicles for every job simply wasn't practical. So engineers came up with an outrageous idea. Why not build one machine capable of replacing all of them? The result looked unlike anything else on the road. 4 equal-sized. Wheels, an unusually narrow body, huge ground, clearance and proportions that made it look like a tractor and a truck had somehow merged into one vehicle. But appearances barely scratched the surface. Instead of using conventional axles, the Unimog relied on portal axles, lifting the entire chassis far above the ground. Underneath sat a flexible frame that allowed the truck to twist dramatically without losing traction. Watching one climb over rocks almost looks impossible. While ordinary trucks lift wheels into the air, the Unimog keeps all 4 tires planted firmly on the ground. It almost appears to bend in half. That incredible flexibility allowed it to cross terrain most trucks wouldn't even attempt, yet despite its extreme off-road capability, it could still travel comfortably on public highways. That alone made it revolutionary. Farmers used it to pull plows, foresters carried timber through dense woodland. Emergency. Crews cleared snow from mountain roads. Military forces transported supplies across impossible landscapes. Utility. Companies repaired power lines. Where no paved road existed, few vehicles in automotive history have served so many completely different roles with equal success. When Mercedes-Benz officially took over production in 1951, the Unimog's reputation only grew stronger. Decades passed. Technology changed. Entire generations of trucks disappeared. The Unimog simply kept evolving. More than 70 years later, modern versions still rely on the same brilliant engineering philosophy introduced after World War II. That kind of longevity is almost unheard of. The Unimog isn't the fastest truck ever built. It certainly isn't the cheapest. But if your destination lies beyond roads, bridges, or even common sense, there's a good chance the Unimog will still get there. Number 9. Tatra T813. Colossive, the Unimog looked unusual. The next truck looks like it belongs on another planet. Meet the Tatra T813 Kolos. Built in Czechoslovakia during the Cold War, this enormous 8-wheel drive giant wasn't designed to impress anyone. It was designed to survive. Everything about the Kolos feels oversized, massive tires, towering, ground clearance, a cab that sits unusually high above the road, and proportions so strange They almost seem wrong, but hidden beneath that intimidating bodywork was one of the most brilliant engineering ideas ever fitted to a heavy truck. Instead of using a traditional ladder frame like almost every competitor, Tatra engineers built the entire vehicle around a massive central backbone tube. Inside that steel tube lived the driveline itself. The result: extraordinary strength, outstanding protection, and incredible suspension movement across rough terrain. Independent swinging half-axles allowed each wheel to react almost independently. While ordinary trucks struggled across rocks, mud, or snow, the Coloss simply kept moving. It came from an air-cooled V12 diesel. Choosing air cooling wasn't just unusual, it eliminated the need for a radiator entirely. That meant fewer vulnerable components and greater reliability in freezing winters, scorching deserts, or active military operations. This wasn't luxury engineering, it was survival engineering. The T-8113 hauled artillery, missile systems, bridges, and military equipment through terrain where many vehicles simply gave up. Even fully loaded, it could climb steep slopes, ford deep rivers, and crawl across ground that looked impossible. To many Western engineers, the design seemed overly complicated. History proved otherwise. Tatra's backbone chassis worked so well that the company continued refining it for decades. Modern military trucks still borrow ideas first proven by the Coloss. Sometimes, the strangest ideas become the smartest ones. Number 8. AEC Mammoth. Major, sometimes engineers solve problems carefully. Other times, they simply add more wheels. That was essentially the philosophy behind Britain's extraordinary AEC Mammoth. Major. Introduced during the 1930s. This wasn't just another heavy truck, it was a moving industrial machine. Factories were growing. Road transport was replacing rail for many heavy loads. Industry demanded bigger trucks. AEC responded with something almost unbelievable. 8 wheels, twin steering axles, multiple driven rear axles, and enough strength to move cargo that previously required railway wagons. The Mammoth Major looked enormous. Its impossibly long bonnet, its towering driving position, its endless rows of wheels, everything about it screamed power. Yet, despite its size, engineers equipped it with surprisingly advanced braking systems and carefully balanced suspension that made controlling such enormous loads far safer than many expected. It wasn't beautiful, it wasn't elegant. It simply got the job done. During World War II, many of the lessons learned from heavy road transport influenced military logistics, proving that trucks could handle jobs once considered impossible outside the railway network. Looking at a Mammoth Major today feels almost surreal. It represents an era when engineers believed there was only one solution to every problem: more steel, more axles, more strength, and somehow they were right. Number 7. Piaggio Ape. If Britain's Mammoth Major proved that bigger was sometimes better, Italy took the exact opposite approach. Instead of building one of the largest trucks in Europe, Piaggio created one of the smallest commercial vehicles ever to carry a serious workload. Meet the Piaggio Ape. At first glance, it barely resembles a truck, with just 3 wheels, a tiny cab, and proportions closer to a scooter than a pickup. It almost looks like a toy, but appearances can be deceiving. Introduced in 1948, the Ape arrived when post-war Italy desperately needed affordable transportation. Small businesses couldn't afford full-size trucks, yet they still had goods to deliver. Piaggio already had the successful Vespa scooter. So engineers asked a simple question: what if we turned a scooter into a truck? It sounded ridiculous. It turned out to be brilliant. Using the Vespa's mechanical foundation, they added a lightweight cargo bed behind the cabin. The little engine wasn't powerful, but clever gearing allowed it to carry surprisingly heavy loads through Italy's narrow streets. Where large delivery trucks struggled to turn around, the Ape slipped through ancient alleyways with ease. Builders, bakers, farmers, florists, and shopkeepers quickly adopted it. It became one of the hardest-working vehicles in Europe. Over time, the Ape evolved into countless versions: pickup trucks, delivery, vans, mini dump trucks, enclosed passenger models. Few vehicles have adapted to so many different jobs while remaining so incredibly simple. Even today, modern electric versions continue to serve cities around the world. Sometimes the strangest design is also the smartest. Number 6. Sentinel Steam Wagon. Imagine stopping at a traffic light in the 1920s. Beside you sits a motor car. Behind you, a horse and wagon. And rumbling toward the intersection, a steam-powered truck. It sounds impossible today, but for decades, it was perfectly normal. Long after gasoline and diesel engines began taking over the roads, Britain's Sentinel Wagon Works continued building commercial steam trucks that competed surprisingly well against their modern rivals. Unlike enormous traction engines, Sentinel designed compact vertical boilers that fit neatly beneath the driver's cab. From a distance, they almost looked like ordinary trucks until they started hissing. Steam escaped from valves, coal smoke drifted into the air, and the entire vehicle seemed alive. While steam required patience, it also offered huge advantages: massive low-speed torque, exceptional pulling power, and the ability to burn different fuels including coal, coke, and even wood. For heavy industrial work, those qualities mattered far more than outright speed. Factories, ports, construction sites. Many relied on Sentinel steam wagons every single day. Of course, they demanded skilled drivers. Boilers had to warm up. Water levels needed constant monitoring. Pressure had to be carefully controlled. Operating one required far more attention than climbing into a diesel truck and turning a key. Eventually, improving diesel technology and changing economics brought the steam era to an end. But for one fascinating chapter in automotive history, Britain proved that the future of trucking could just as easily have been powered by boiling water instead of exploding fuel. That thought alone makes the Sentinel one of the strangest commercial vehicles ever built. Number 5. Scamel Pioneer. Some trucks transport cargo, others transport history. The Scamel Pioneer was designed for something even more demanding. It rescued machines that nobody else could recover. Introduced before World War II, the Pioneer quickly became one of Britain's most valuable military vehicles. Its purpose wasn't glamorous. It wasn't built for speed. It was built to recover tanks, artillery pieces, and massive equipment from places where ordinary trucks became hopelessly stuck. Everything about it reflected that mission: the enormous front-mounted winch, the towering ride height, the heavy-duty suspension. Even standing still, it looked powerful. Underneath, Scamel engineers developed an ingenious walking beam rear suspension system that kept both rear axles firmly planted on rough terrain. Instead of spinning helplessly in mud, the Pioneer continued crawling forward with remarkable confidence. Recovery versions carried cranes, lifting equipment, and complex winching systems capable of dragging disabled tanks out of bomb craters or deep mud. During wartime, that capability saved countless vehicles that would otherwise have been abandoned. Driving one demanded patience. Steering was heavy. The ride was harsh. Comfort barely existed. But none of that mattered. When every other truck stopped, the Pioneer kept moving, and sometimes that single ability made all the difference. Number 4. Kraz 255F. The Scamel Pioneer represented Britain's answer to heavy recovery. The Soviet Union responded with something even more intimidating. The Kraz 255 wasn't designed to be refined. It wasn't designed to be comfortable. It was designed to survive. Everything about this truck feels excessive. Its enormous balloon tires, its towering ride height, its massive diesel engine. Even parked, the Kraz looks ready to drive through a forest without slowing down. Developed during the 1960s in what is now Ukraine, the Kraz 255 became one of the Soviet military's most dependable heavy transport vehicles. Its mission was simple: go anywhere. Carry anything, never quit. Roads were optional. Mud, snow, frozen rivers, deep forests, none of it mattered. While Western manufacturers focused on improving driver comfort, Soviet engineers focused on something entirely different: reliability. The Kraz was intentionally simple: minimal electronics, heavy mechanical components, loose manufacturing tolerances. Everything could be repaired in the field with basic tools. That philosophy kept thousands of these trucks working under conditions where more advanced vehicles simply failed. Driving one wasn't exactly enjoyable. The steering demanded strength. The cabin was noisy. Fuel consumption was enormous. But drivers trusted it because it rarely let them down. Even today, decades after production began, many Kraz trucks remain operational across some of the harshest environments on Earth. Sometimes ugly engineering lasts the longest. Number 3. Decatura. After looking at military giants, it's time for something completely unexpected. What happens when truck drivers stop treating their vehicles as work machines and start treating them as works of art? Welcome to the extraordinary world of Decatura. Born in Japan during the 1970s, Decatura, short for decoration truck, transformed ordinary commercial vehicles into rolling masterpieces. Chrome everywhere, hundreds of lights, massive stainless steel bumpers, hand-painted murals, velvet interiors, mirrors, polished aluminum. The trucks looked less like cargo vehicles and more like moving science fiction movies. The movement exploded after the release of the popular Truck Yarrow films, inspiring drivers across Japan to personalize their rigs like never before. But here's the surprising part. These weren't show cars. Most of them still worked for a living. They hauled freight, delivered cargo, operated on public highways. Yet, every evening they looked ready to enter a parade. For many drivers, decorating their truck wasn't about showing off. It was about identity. Long-haul truckers spent weeks away from home. Their truck became their second home, their pride, their personality. Authorities eventually tightened regulations, reducing some of the more extreme modifications. Even so, Decatura culture never disappeared. Today, festivals across Japan still celebrate these incredible machines, attracting enthusiasts from around the world. They prove something remarkable. Even the hardest working vehicles can become beautiful. Number 2. Foden steam truck. Most people assume steam-powered road vehicles disappeared the moment gasoline engines arrived. History tells a different story. Companies like Foden continued building steam trucks long after internal combustion had already begun changing transportation. At first glance, they resembled ordinary commercial vehicles. Look a little closer, and everything changes. Coal bunkers, water tanks, large boilers, steam valves. These trucks breathed, they hissed, they whistled, they almost felt alive. Despite looking outdated, steam still offered major advantages. Huge pulling power, massive low-speed torque, excellent reliability, and fuel flexibility. Coal was often cheaper and easier to obtain than petrol or diesel. That made Foden steam wagons surprisingly competitive for heavy industrial work. Of course, there were disadvantages. Drivers needed specialist training. Boilers required constant attention. Water had to be replenished regularly. Starting the truck wasn't as simple as turning a key. Yet owners accepted those challenges because the trucks simply kept working. Today, seeing a Foden steam wagon moving under its own power feels almost unreal. It's like watching history come back to life. And it reminds us that automotive progress wasn't always a straight line. Sometimes the future takes unexpected detours. Number 1. Commer Walkthrough and Q Series. Our final truck doesn't look strange because of giant wheels, or bizarre engineering, or unusual power. It looks strange because it completely reimagined how drivers interact with a commercial vehicle. Meet the Commer Walkthrough. Introduced during the 1960s, it was designed around one simple question. What wastes the most time during deliveries? The answer wasn't driving. It was constantly climbing in and out of the truck, so Commer redesigned the entire vehicle around the driver. A low flat floor, wide sliding doors, easy access to the cargo area without stepping outside. Today, that seems perfectly normal. Back then, it was revolutionary. The military-inspired Q Series pushed the concept even further. Four-wheel drive. Strengthened chassis. Simple mechanics. Field-serviceable components. These trucks sacrificed beauty for pure functionality. And that decision quietly influenced countless delivery vehicles that followed. Modern parcel vans, postal trucks, urban delivery fleets. Many still rely on ideas first introduced decades ago by Commer engineers. It may never win awards for appearance, but it helped change commercial vehicle design forever. Sometimes the strangest, vehicles aren't remembered because they were the biggest. They're remembered because they solved problems nobody else had even noticed. From unstoppable military giants to glowing Japanese masterpieces, from tiny three-wheeled delivery trucks to steam-powered workhorses. These incredible machines prove that truck history has never been ordinary. Every one of them challenged convention. Everyone solved a problem differently. And everyone reminds us that the greatest engineering breakthroughs often begin with ideas that sound completely ridiculous. So now it's your turn. Which of these bizarre trucks surprised you the most? Was it the unstoppable Unimog, the towering Tatra, the outrageous Decotora, or the unbelievable steam-powered Foden? Let us know down in the comments. And if you enjoy discovering the forgotten machines, hidden engineering, and incredible vehicles that shaped automotive history, subscribe to Motor Legacy, and join us for more stories that prove the world's greatest automobiles are often the ones history almost forgot.